Hey everyone, this is smpratte with the final segment of the Pokedex binder collection. This binder will include cards from EV 137 and end with Mew 151. This binder will also contain probably a ton of very collectible cards, as typically in Pokemon, the beginning of the Pokedex and the end of the Pokedex usually have the most popular species. So sit back and relax and enjoy a long video on art appreciation. So starting with Eevee, you have to appreciate the jungle Eevee. In fact, jungle cards, in my opinion, in general, they have a very unique vibe to them. They capture that time well. They give you a very good impression of what the jungle set looks like. You know, it has a nice continuity to it. So I know Eevee is not one of the rarest cards, but I think it really captures the essence of jungle, if that makes sense. The essence of beauty. And then Eevee over here from vending, you always got to talk about vending. It's one of the most underrated sets in the hobby. And these two cards are actually very interesting. Same artwork, but significantly different releases. The one on the left is very common, the extremely common Black Star Holo card. However, the one on the right is the rarer Rally non-holo release. So the one on the right I actually like, not only because it's more difficult to obtain, but I prefer the non-holo version because you can see that red, blue, yellow implying the Flareon, Vaporeon, Jolteon evolution for Eevee. And also this card was basically an adaptation of the original Eevee fan club, which is definitely the most valuable, and the artwork never made it outside of Japan. So this card was only awarded in Japan to fan club members in the year 2000 who earned 500 points. And you can also see in the background, it has a blue, red, and yellow Eevee, implying again the potential evolution. And interestingly enough, looking at this again, this coloring, you can look at the coloring between these two. Eevee looks like a Flareon almost, low-key on the right, where Eevee looks like standard Eevee on the left. So just notice that looking over these or comparing them. And then moving on to some other Eevee cards. Again, this binder ends at 2009. For those who didn't watch the previous videos, that's where the binder collection stopped. And then I started categorizing by set. So transitioning into Vaporeon, this was the original Vaporeon card. And here's actually an example of the air. I have the full air set in a separate binder, but I have some peppered in here, and this is a good example of what... Actually, let's do a side by side. So you can see the jungle symbol here on the right. This is what a jungle card should look like. This is what the air version looks like. The symbol is missing, therefore it looks like a base set card because base set did not have a set symbol. And all of the holo cards from jungle had a brief, very brief print where they are missing the jungle logo. One of the better air or misprint variations that are out there in the hobby. Moving on to Dark Vaporeon and the Dark Pokemon and Rocket in general is just so underrated in my opinion. Typically in any hobby, usually the first, like if you would imagine this as the Vaporeon rookie card, if you will, usually the second card after that, like the second season, the second release, is definitely not going to be as valuable as the first. However, with the Dark cards, I think there's something extra that's brought to the table. I think because it is a Dark Vaporeon, it's more of a variation than simply being Jungle Vaporeon and simply another Vaporeon. So I think that's why, in my opinion, Rocket is severely underrated, not only because you have a unique style. It's very stylized for the Rocket set. Similar to what I said with Jungle. Jungle has a vibe to it. Rocket does as well. And that dark variation, to me, is still underrated to this day. And then there's the contrast, going from dark to light. Gotta love Neo Destiny. That's one of the major benefits for Neo Destiny is that unique light Pokemon were only seen in that set. There's a couple other mixtures there of species who have a dark and light variant. This is the Trainer Club magazine, Japanese exclusive promo. This artwork is nice as it was one illustration in total, and what they did is they took a snapshot of Vaporeon for it, and then they took a close-up for Flareon, and then Jolteon for each respective card. Also really like this Vaporeon. I know this isn't extremely rare, but I love this artwork. Same with the Jolteon and Flareon variants. And then, of course, you got your Gold Star. And here we go into Jolteon. Everyone knows the jungle. There's your air version again. This is the Coral Jungle, Coral Jolteon, one of my favorite Jolteon cards. It's unique artwork, only released in Japan in that Coral release. Very underrated as well. There's Dark Jolteon. Just fantastic art. Again, it's an uncommon card, uncommon the set where it's pulled in a booster pack, but that artwork is just solid. And then there's the trainer mag. You can see again the one I said earlier with Vaporeon. Now the focus is on Jolteon. You can see Flareon on the right, which we will bump into. And there again, that Vaporeon I showed you that was swimming in the water. There's the Jolteon variant. They work very well together. Very similar vibe. And last but not least, there's your air version for Flareon. Versus Flareon, just fantastic. I would say if you had to have a favorite artwork out of the three from the original Jungle, it's probably going to be Flareon, if you had to make that claim. And there is that final Trainers Mag where you can see Flareon is the emphasis. And also the last, I think, is a pop release for those cards I keep mentioning. Then moving into Porygon. Porygon is, of course, a base release. So you got your first edition, Shadowless, Unlimited, looking as regal as possible next to each other. Porygon's one of those cards that I think is underrated. I always feel bad for Porygon because he has a stigma, or he used to have a stigma for that that seizure incident, and it just wasn't Porygon's fault. But here is the Vending Series Porygon. Very solid artwork in my opinion. Again, does not break the bank. You have to buy Vending. I'm not selling it, but buy it. So someone out there is going to sell it to you for cheap because it's such an underrated set. Also love that Sabrina's Porygon. And then moving into Omanite. This is one I've had. It's always had this black marker on it. I have no idea where that came from. This is from way back in the day when I was a kid. And he's just stuck around. And there's actually two Vending Omanites. I always thought this one was Omastar, but it is Omanite. I think for me, my favorite Omanite card is going to be this one right here. This artwork is just so perfect. It's so good. It's just tragic. You got the two crustaceans in the background with the little heart bubbles. See that going on, and this poor guy couldn't find anyone. Legend Maker's trying to help him out with that, that little logo right there, trying to censor out the tear for him. But yeah, this is just a great artwork. And I think what it is, from my experience with Futurama, that's what I'm basing this off of. I remember when Zoidberg went out there and tried to find a mate. I think it's that same setup where he didn't find a mate. And yeah, there he is. But nonetheless, great artwork in the hobby. And then moving into Omastar, I think hands down my favorite is going to be the Misaki Omastar. Hands down. It just captures everything you want for a collectible. It's exclusive. It has unique artwork, exclusive release, a nice challenge. Also, it's part of the vending set. So that one of these Omanite cards, you had to send these in with the Bill PC pass card, and you receive this guy in return. Then moving into Kabuto. I've always been more of an Omanite Omastar guy, even though I do like Kabuto and Kabutops, but Omanite and Omastar were my choices in the game. I think one of my favorite Kabutos, again, it's going to be the Vending. Just great artwork. Has that DBZ vibe for some reason. I don't know why. I always think DBZ with this, like Frieza or one of the androids in the, being preserved there. And then moving into Kabutops, there's the original artwork from Fossil. Terrible playable card, but solid artwork. And then Aerodactyl, we have the pre-release, of course. This was probably the most, I don't want to say the most available pre-release, but at my time, this is actually the one I think received in person in 1999 at the local Toys R Us. So yeah, maybe that's why I have that connotation, because I picked it up when I was a kid. And there you go again. Fantastic Vending artwork. It's just, the thing I love about Vending is it's so detailed. There's a focus on the background, where a lot of cards, like if you look at your set cards, nothing wrong with this. It's just a difference where it's just the Pokemon on the front. While with Vending, you usually have a whole atmosphere behind it. Going back to Kabuto, same deal. It was like there's more going on here. There's a lot more detail in this illustration than simply just Pokemon or Pokemon. I really like that. I really like when there's more of an illustration, a holistic illustration. Aerodactyl EX, very good example of the early original EX cards. I think these, we're talking about underrated. I do think the EX cards are underrated. I don't think they've come into their own yet. That's something to watch for. It's interesting to see what's going to happen with those original EX cards. This Aerodactyl to the left, you just gotta love. Look at the attack. I'm not even gonna say anything. Just read the attack on this Aerodactyl and try not to laugh. Like this Aerodactyl is just the stand-up comedian for Aerodactyls. I mean, Power Blow, Speed Stroke. Come on now. Who's the artist for this? Who designed this thing? I guess the artist might have not done the attacks. But nonetheless, that's your little stand-up comedian Aerodactyl there. You gotta love that that description. That's one of the rare instances where the description probably outweighs the artwork. So moving into Snorlax, you have the original jungle. I think everyone's aware of this. This Snorlax, man. Not only am I pumping the vending sets, I believe this is one of the cards that was awarded for the Illustrator card. So this is one of the lucky winners who, for those who aren't aware, the Pikachu Illustrator card was awarded to someone who illustrated during the or submitted an illustration during the illustration contest, and if it was chosen as a winner, you received the Illustrator card as well as your card art was turned into a trading card. So this was one of the winners, and I do like the crude hand-drawn artwork. It's a nice variation to the standard, professional style. Of course, if it was always this, yeah, obviously that's not a good thing, but it's a nice variation. That's what you got to appreciate about art. That's part of the appreciation. It's just the variance. And of course, this was done by someone who's younger. There's an experience behind that as well. There's a uniqueness behind this card, a unique release. Also, something to add when we're on Snorlax here, you'll notice he started to change color at a certain point. Very similar to Bulbasaur or other species where they start out dark. This very dark green. I don't even know if you'd consider that a dark green. Very dark color, almost brownish black. And then all of a sudden you start to turn to this bluish green color. You see that transition there? Start out really, really dark. And then a little bit lighter. I don't know if he, woke up, got a little more sun or something, but just one of the changes there if someone does care about that aspect for Snorlax. I know Snorlax is a fan favorite for a lot of people. And there's a lot of actually good artwork to choose from. I mean, this Rocket Snorlax is just one of them. Again, the EX cards, I think they're going to be on an incline. A lot of this original EX era is underrated. And I love the Dominoes promo. So there's a Munchlax, and then this is the second one, the Snorlax. You can see he's having a heyday there with all the apples. You got the little Dominoes logo here at the bottom. Japanese promo. And then here's the final form, the Snorlax Level X Dominoes promo. I really like that line of promotional release. I know it was printed in English, but the Dominoes one for me is my favorite. And then moving to Articuno, here's the original Articuno release. I'm sure most people are aware. Then you have Vending, and then Anna. This is the Anna release, the original. And then your Black Star promo. This is what I'm talking about with these species being so popular. It's very difficult just to skim past this because pretty much every artwork here is solid. Every example gives you something to collect. There's your Trainers magazine, unique Japanese promo release, unique artwork. So, the Articuno EX, look at that. Two different types of Articuno EXs here. You got the Rocket on the right, then the Fire Red, Leaf Green, Secret Rare on the left. I believe that's the secret rare for that set. Then moving to Zapdos. Zapdos, of course, was part of the base set. And damn, I need to upgrade that Zapdos. That thing's been in there for a minute. This Zapdos is probably from way, way back in the day. Hence the lines there are numerous creases. That's a battle-torn Zapdos. And then here's the Air Zapdos from Fossil. Zapdos had two releases, that base and then Fossil in the original WotC sets, the Kanto sets. And you can see that Air, the cutout there for the evolution box, which is odd because Zapdos clearly doesn't evolve from anything, but that is one of the original Air cards. And there you have, is this the Quick Starter? Yep, it is. There's the holo pattern. The only difference between the Quick Starter and the vending release is the Quick Starter has the holo pattern as well. I believe a non-glossy stock with no rarity symbol, where the vending is glossy, non-holo, and rarity symbol. I like how I said the only difference ends up being three things. And then, the vending is non-holo, glossy, and with a rarity symbol. There's your Anna Zapdos, Rocket Zapdos. Really difficult to skim through these because there's so much solid artwork. Here's that other Trainers mag. I believe pretty much all the Trainers mag had one illustration, then they just took each piece from that illustration and focused on the Pokemon for each card. There's a McDonald's Zapdos, another Japanese promo for 2002. There's again the Zapdos EX with the Rocket Zapdos EX. Very similar to, if you think like either fossil versus rocket type deal, what I was talking about before, Vaporeon. Very similar thing going on for that original EX era. And then this is the Zapdos EX. It was a promo. Actually, the player's promo was the original one, and this was the later English reprint. There's your Zapdos Rumble. And then moving into Moltres, the original Moltres down there. Then you have your Quick Starter, and then your Vending, Animal Moltres. God, this one on the left, actually, this was an original card from 1999 as well. This is from when I was younger as a kid. I always loved this Blaine's Moltres. I just loved how it zoomed out. Ken Sugimori artwork. Has like an ominous thing going on there. And it was the first Pokemon to have 5 energy, which is not something you want to be known for, because that does not make it a playable card, but it was nonetheless the first to have 5 energy cost. And then moving on to the Rockets Moltres, couple of Rockets Moltres. Then you have your Black Star Moltres, which is very common. And here, nice little variation. You can see the Sky Ridge Moltres on the left, and then the Trainer's Mag on the right. Has that E-card design. The Trainer's Mag, of course, being a little bit rare, more exclusive, obviously. It's a Japanese promo. It was never released in English. Then again, you have your Moltres EX, and then your Rockets Moltres EX. Nice little variation there. And moving into Dratini. Dratini, again, part of the original base set. Erica's Dratini, very underrated. This is a Core release. Japanese exclusive. I think 1998. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that was the year it was released. Dratini's always a fan favorite. Again, Trainers Magazine. Got a lot of Trainers Magazines in this binder. Here's another one. Unique artwork. And again, it is going to be a shared illustration. And this is the Dratini part of that illustration. And then Dragonair. This has to be one of the best illustrations in the hobby. This Dragonair is just ridiculous. I think so many people would agree with that. Dragonair's not. I'm not a big Dratini Dragonair Dragonite guy. Like, that's not one of my main Pokemon, if you will. But this artwork is just phenomenal, especially the Shadowless for some reason. I like the Shadowless more. I don't know if there's something with that shadow on the border that takes it away, if it's just a softer illustration, but nonetheless, it's just one of the best illustrations in the hobby. If this had a holo pattern, good God, this card would be so collectible as both holo and non-holo. But I think probably why it is because there is that only one variant, and that holo one is like a dream that will never come true. So there you go, the original Dragonair. And then nice little contrast here. Look at that original Dragonair versus the Dark Dragonair. Look at the majestic original one, than this not as majestic Dark Dragonair. And then you have Erica's Dragonair, which is nice. Light Dragonair. One of those again. You got dark and then light. Nice contrast. Here is the Trainer Mag. This is going to be the variant of that Dratini I mentioned earlier. Or the variant of that illustration. And then lastly for this evolution is Dragonite. Dragonite again. All these Pokemon in this album have so much solid artwork. I mean, just look at this from a far away perspective. There's just so much good artwork here for Dragonite. If you are a Dragonite collector, you are spoiled. There's so much to collect from the Jump, the original, for the Dark. Even Dragonite's pulling off a man purse. Like he's somehow pulling off a man purse, and no one cares because it looks so good. So Dragonite has everything going on. There's your Trainer's Mag, the final Trainer's Mag, and then you have your EX. There's your Dark Dragonite from... you have a Dark Dragonite from the original Rocket, Dark Dragonite from Rocket Returns. This one was always interesting to me. This Dragonite evolves... Where's his evolution? Evolves at level 50. And Dragonite's supposed to evolve at 55. I don't know how that happened. Come on, Pokemon, you gotta stick to the rules. But anyway, that one evolves at level 50. Just a little tidbit there. And then Mewtwo is one of my favorites. Mewtwo was holding it down back in the day for Red and Blue. I remember when we played Pokemon Stadium, I transferred my Mewtwo over. I was fighting the Elite Four, and all my Pokemon were knocked out. It was, I think, 3v3. Knocked out 2 of them. Mewtwo was the only one left. Swept the whole bench. He took out the whole Elite Four on his own because he had Recover, Tri-Attack, Psychic. He just had a nice plethora of attacks and stats. So Mewtwo's one of my favorites from the Jump. And then you have your Air Mewtwo here. Let me focus in on this. You see that on his leg there? Little Japanese kanji. See that little writing there? That's the air version, and this is the non-air version. Not sure which is more difficult to obtain, because I do see the air now more frequently. I think a lot of people miss it, but that is nonetheless a difference between the two. This was actually the first card with 3 attacks. So this Mewtwo was the first to have 3 attacks, where previously only Pokemon had 2 attacks. I remember actually one of my friends back in the day pulled this as a kid, which is definitely a good pull. And also the little window there for the Pokemon is smaller. You see the one on the left, much wider. That's because of the 3 attacks, making the illustration a little shorter. And then you have your Rally Mewtwo. This was the Mewtwo card I traded my Mr. Mime for, that I talked about in a previous video. My Mr. Mime Air. And then getting into some of the very, very popular Mewtwo cards. This is the Shining Mewtwo, of course. This is the Rockets Meowth Mewtwo, or Rockets Mewtwo. Video's getting a little long here. Rockets Mewtwo. And this one was only available in Japan, never released in English. Japanese exclusive. Just all round great item to collect. And then this was the Rally Mewtwo, another one of those cards that had a full illustration for all 6 Pokemon, and this was the Mewtwo part of it. Another Japanese exclusive. The first Mewtwo EX right here, very quality art. The Mewtwo Delta, also very good art. And then your movie promo Mewtwo, another Japanese exclusive. Then Mewtwo Level X, and unfortunately this is where it ends, because again this stopped at 2009, around there, 2009, 2010. And then last but not least, finally, 21 minutes later, we're at Mew. This was the original Mew, my favorite artwork of Mew. For this, I wish this were a set card, but this was the more common release. This was the slightly less common release, but I love how the Mew was depicted. And, you know, talking about color change for Snorlax, Mew was another one of those Pokemon, as you could already tell. It changed from being this white Pokemon with pink accents to being completely pink. You know, that was something that happened probably around the late 90s, early 2000s. So you have your JR Rally Mew right here, Lily Pad, non-glossy. And then Southern Island, you have to love the Southern Island. And then you have a couple of Ancient Mews down here. Shining Mew, very popular species, or very popular card. Both of these are extremely popular. Sunset Mew is definitely highly collectible. Japanese exclusive, only released at McDonald's in 2002. Another Japanese exclusive, Mew EX player promotional card. I think this one's still sealed. Another player release right here from Mewtwo, or from Mew. This one was, again, players promo, mid-2000s. I remember seeing this one and another one on a Mew collector site and was blown away, because I never saw any of this. I never saw this, or these 2 cards before. And I was like, wow, I really got to get on board with these Japanese promos. I think Mew is a great example of what Japanese promos do for the hobby. You have 5 cards right here, you know, that were Japanese promos. At least 4. This one, I'm not sure on this one, but I think these at least 4 were never released in English. So it's just a great example of how you have items that aren't extremely expensive. These 2 are going to be a little bit pricier, especially in mint condition. But nonetheless, these are sub $100 cards. Very nice artwork. You got your Mew EX, the 2 types of Mew EX there. I think that was a DVD promo. Then your Shining Gold Star Mew. And then your Delta Mew, Delta species. I believe one of those is the air version where the back card is tilted. And then last but not least, Rumble Mew and Mew Prime. So there you go. It's a pretty long video, lot of art to talk about. Hopefully that you learned something from this, or you saw some cards that might, you know, interest you in some way that you want to go out and collect. But yeah, that is it. That is everything for the Pokedex binder collection. Again, this was from 1999 to 2009. It was my time frame in there where I pretty much just did binders and was learning, you know, growing in the hobby. And basically these binders really display what my values were at the time, which is typically artwork. So yeah, hopefully that helped you in some way. As usual, if you have any questions, let me know. Until next time.